I am walking. With visible breath, I am walking. I am walking. Behold, I am sending a voice. A voice I am sending. A voice I am sending.
The story of White Buffalo Woman, Pite Sa Oui, is the most important story to the Sioux Indians. The name translates variously as White Buffalo Cow Woman, Calf Pipe Maiden, and the story goes that early one morning at dawn many winters ago, two Lakota warriors were out hunting with bows and arrows, and they saw a herd of buffalo, and it changed into a woman in a strange and wonderful manner. And this woman came towards them, wearing white doe skin and carrying a bundle, and she was singing a song. It went something like, "Behold, I am walking. With visible breath I am walking. I am walking. Behold, I am sending a voice. A voice I am sending. A voice I am sending." Now one of these men had bad thoughts about her because she was very beautiful. So he went over to her, and a cloud covered both of them. And when the cloud went away, he had turned into bones at her feet, and snakes were crawling through the bones. And the other man saw that she was a sacred woman. He ran back to the village to tell the people that she was coming. And she came into their ceremonial teepee and brought them the sacred pipe. And the pipe, as she explained it, is the way to send their voices to Wakan Tanka. Wakan Tanka is grandfather God. Wakan means strange, wonderful power. And Tonka is from Tatonka, which is a buffalo bull. She gave them the 7 ceremonies of the Sioux, which include the Sweat Lodge and the Sundance. And the pipe was made out of red pipestone, carved like a buffalo calf, and it had a stem made out of ash tree, and there were 12 eagle feathers tied onto it. When she left, she went over a hill, and she changed back into a red buffalo calf, signifying spring or the maiden woman. Then she changed into a white buffalo cow, representing summer and fertility. And then she changed into a black buffalo, the old woman of winter. And then she bowed to the 4 directions, said a prayer to Wakan Tanka, and disappeared.
Wakan Tanka. is the name of the original creative force of the universe in the Lakota Sioux language. We're at a very holy place here today in South Dakota on the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation of the Hunkpapa Lakota. On this spot right here, this whole area here, is where one of the greatest men who ever lived on this continent was assassinated in 1890. His name is Tatanka Iyotake, which translates into Sitting Bull. There were several log houses up here, half a dozen teepees. People would come to see Sitting Bull, have councils with him. He always welcomed everyone. Say he was very friendly, welcomed white people into his home, gave them something to eat. They stayed overnight. But he was such a powerful man that he had many enemies. Primarily the agent on the reservation, McLaughlin, who wanted Sitting Bull out of the way because he had the following of the people. And the agent didn't want that. He wanted the power. But this quiet, strong, diplomatic man was the true leader. He was also a prophet, and he carried some very powerful medicine bundle with which he could, at will, make it thunder and rain. There are many stories of Sitting Bull saying it's going to rain this afternoon when the sky was clear. He had a lot of thunder power. You can hear it. Lightning power. Wakia oyate. This is where he was brutally murdered on December 15th, 1890. 14 years after he kicked Custer's ass in the Little Bighorn River. Ever since that day on June 25th, 1876, at the Little Bighorn River in Montana, Indians counted it as the high point of their modern written history. The major triumph. It was not so much a devastating military defeat as it was a psychological defeat to the Americans. It was their 4th of July weekend, 100 years as a country. We remember the recent Statue of Liberty extravaganza. That was what was going on in the rest of the country, and then all of a sudden they get word that an army of godless heathens have wiped out their greatest general to the man. It was a tremendous psychological blow, and I don't think the Americans have ever recovered from it. And it was primarily the result of one man's genius and passion, Sitting Bull. Most Indians agree on that. There were many great warriors and war chiefs, fighting leaders, medicine men, holy men and women at the Little Bighorn. But nobody ever before that or since that any of the traditions have it anyway, was able to bring together so many armies of Indians. They say there were at least 5,000 fighting warriors. It was probably more like 7,000 or 8,000 compared to Custer's 300 men. That's maybe another story for another day, the Little Bighorn. But after that, it was 14 years in which his people were hounded and frozen and starved to death and massacred in many ways. Sitting Bull finally went to Canada in 1877, a year or so later, which is precipitated his break with Crazy Horse, which is what my play Two Men is about. And I've researched this for 15 years, since 1971, when I played Sitting Bull in a play by Arthur Coppett in Denver, 1971, as an actor. And ever since that time, when Frank Fool's Crow came to the opening of the play and blessed me with an eagle feather, I haven't been able to get Sitting Bull out of my mind. And then, so I wrote a play about him and his relationship with Crazy Horse. Because many people said, well, you know, Crazy Horse was a greater man. Well, I don't think that's really what it's about. They're both great men and very different in their ways. Crazy Horse was an invincible, vulnerable fighting leader. But he died very young. Was also assassinated at Fort Robinson, Nebraska. We'll be down there later next week. When he was, they say, no more than about 35 years old. Sitting Bull, when he was killed here, he was 59 years old. And he had been a great leader of his people for at least 20, 30 years. Hereditary chief. He was, as I said, a prophet and a great medicine leader. But after the defeat of the Little Bighorn, they went to Canada in '77, froze there for 4 years, treated fairly well by the red coats of the grandmother, as they called Queen Victoria. But finally his people were filtered back to their traditional lands here in the Dakotas. And in 1881, Sitting Bull surrendered and returned to the United States. He was kept in Fort Randall Prison in North Dakota for a couple of years. And then he joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show and toured the world for a couple of years to make money to send back to his people here on the Standing Rock Hunkpapa Lakota Reservation. And there are stories at the Wild West show that he was kept in a cage and people threw shit at him for 5 cents. Well, he got 5 cents and sent it home. But he came back here in '85, put up a couple of log cabins, had a half dozen teepees, medicine lodges, sweat lodges, and he took a trip to Washington, D.C. in 1889 to contest the Dawes Allotment Act, which they took the entire Sioux reservation and chopped it down again because the pioneers needed more land. And he made sure he kept this land around here, around Little Eagle, Green Grass farther south, as a particularly sacred land for the Lakota. The intrigue leading up to his death. Ilawakan had a lot to do with McLaughlin and the agents and the whole pre-FBI mentality, which is already developing very strongly then. Up through the ghost dance, which started in 1889, with Kicking Bear going out to Nevada to meet Wovoka, the prophet. And Sitting Bull never really did go for the ghost dance, although he was blamed as a big instigator of it, as an excuse to call out the troops. But he really didn't believe it, and it did, of course, later prove out to be a hoax. And the ghost dance shirts did not stop bullets, and Buffalo did not return. And Sitting Bull knew it. But he tolerated it here on his area, which was all along here. And so they sent, I think it was 47 tribal policemen under Lieutenant Bullhead, his relative, Sergeant Red Tomahawk, and one of the troopers' names was Little Eagle, whom the local little village is named after. Nobody knows why. Arrest Sitting Bull and bring him into the agency. Well, they came riding down this hill before dawn. Maybe it was first light. By then they could see a little bit. They'd been drinking all night to get up their courage. They had one of their boys planted inside Sitting Bull's cabin, which was locked, always locked from the inside, so that when Sergeant Red Tomahawk, his short haircut and his tight, ill-fitting blue cavalry uniform, banged on the door, this guy, his name was Shavehead, opened the door from the inside and let them in. They jumped Sitting Bull when he was in bed with his wife, And two of his sons were there, Crowfoot, and an adopted son that he had, John Sitting Bull, I believe it was. They dragged Sitting Bull out naked. He was trying to put his clothes on. People were all gathering around. By then, everybody knew that the troops were had come to arrest Sitting Bull, so Indians from all over the place were there. And so that by this time, this whole area was crowded with at least the 47 policemen and probably at least 100 hostiles, as they were called, of Sitting Bull's band. Sitting Bull was going along cooperatively. Red Tomahawk had him around the chest like this from behind. Bullhead had his hands back like this, and they had guns pointed at him, leading him out so he could barely move in his long johns now. He got his underwear on, much to his embarrassment. Very degrading experience. And all his people were out there and said, Sitting Bull, don't let them take you. And about that time, one of his warriors came walking around the house. I'll have to remember his name. With a bear, or no, it was a buffalo skin over his shoulder, over him, a gun like this going. When Sitting Bull saw that, he was, they think the people who were there later said that he was proud that one of his warriors was going to fight these guys, and that's when he started resisting arrest. And this warrior shot Bullhead, injured him, but his Bullhead went down. He shot Sitting Bull in the left rear as he went down, and went up through him, probably through his heart, killed him instantly. At the same time, Red Tomahawk shot him in the face. Sitting Bull dropped like a rock. He was dead instantly. Major battle broke out. Just vicious slaughter. Many of the policemen were killed. I think 14 of the policemen were killed. Many others injured. Many of Sitting Bull's supporters were killed. Crowfoot was dragged out from inside the cabin where he was hiding under Sitting Bull's mattress. They dragged him out as a coward and shot him in the head in the front doorway. His other son and wife, they got away, ran off down through the trees. But it was a bloody massacre. It was just horrible. And from that battle, so-called massacre, 2 weeks later, Bigfoot's band was surrounded at Wounded Indian and butchered 300 men, women, and children on December 29th. Sitting Bull's body was thrown into the back of a wagon with all the dead troopers after several of the family members of the policemen who were killed found his body and beat it mercilessly, pounded his head with a big post so that he was just unrecognizable meat. And they threw him in the back of the wagon and took him to the agency at Fort Yates, about 40 miles north, and threw him in an unmarked grave and poured limes over him, and that's how he was buried. And the nation celebrated the death of Sitting Bull. Finally, the Indian Wars were over. The thing is, there's no marker here. There's no memorial. There's nothing. Nobody knows it. I mean, it's hard to find.
Clothed me when I was naked in the snow, sheltered me from the bitter cold, fed me when I was hungry in my soul. Now where did you go, friend that I've grown to know? friend. The buffalo. Why, it seemed like just yesterday that I felt the ground tremble as you came running by. Now I watch buzzards circling in the sky, and the iron horse that cuts through our land, and he died every day till it comes the white man. They take your hide and leave the meat to rot in the heat. Where did you go, my friend that I've grown to know? My friend, the buffalo. Without you, my people will surely die. Already the babies, they do cry. I stand on the hill, pray, but gone are the days. Where will we go, my friend that I've grown to know? My friend, the buffalo. My friend, the buffalo.
Turn on the light. I can't see shit.
And Harriet.
And Harriet, in the old days, how long did it take a warrior to gather medicine?
What you do? Find a token in the cracker check box.
I had a sign. The time has come for me to gather medicine. I already have a pony. What did the old ones say about...
I get sick of being asked for good old Indian wisdom. I ain't got none. So get the hell out of here. Hey, Pet Filbert, come. Here's a quote from Doll Knife. He once told my great Uncle Benny looks twice. He said, keep your pony out of my garden.
Keep your pony out of my garden.
Now it's 1986. 96 years ago, Sitting Bull was murdered here. This is the Grand River. Since that extraordinarily violent day of murder, we'll be cruising through Little Eagle, South Dakota, a little town here, in a few minutes, where maybe the degradation and despair and slaughter aren't quite as bad as it was 100 years ago, but it's still pretty bad.